Hi, it's Jackie from 40 Thrive. In these times of uncertainty, you definitely want up-to-date, vetted information from people who know what they're talking about. The CDC, the World Health Organization, you get where I'm going. This podcast is not that. 40 Thrive is a place to learn, grow, and be entertained. It's an escape. I'll leave the COVID-19 talk to others who have committed to getting it right. Thank you so much for understanding and joining me here. Now let's go.
You're listening to the 40 Thrive Podcast, the show created for women 40 and beyond, ready to shake things up. And now, your host, Jackie McDougall.
Welcome to another episode of 40 Thrive. You know I'm a huge believer in not only lifting up women 40 plus, but an advocate for podcasting in general. When I discover a woman's voice, especially over 40, who has found an impactful, creative way to share her story through the power of podcasting, I can't help but yell it from the rooftops. Now more than ever, elevating each other's voices is hugely important. I met Nikki Boyer probably 7 or 8 years ago when she was involved with a TV show I was working on. Nikki is an Emmy award-winning TV host, actress, voiceover artist, and life coach. You may recognize her from Wendy Williams' show, Access Hollywood, countless TV shows, or on Straight Talk with Ross, the podcast she co-hosts. But it's her new 6-episode podcast series, Dying for Sex, that we're going to dive into today. Before we get started, there is no better time to try Audible. You get a free 30-day trial, 2 free audiobook downloads, and 2 Audible originals. And those Audible originals are pretty awesome. If you decide to continue after the trial, you get 1 audiobook and 2 Audible originals each month. You get exclusive guided wellness programs, and this is the most important thing. You will get an email reminder 7 days before your trial ends. So you're not going to be spending money that you're not planning to spend. You'll get the reminder, and you can cancel if it's not working for you. So head on over to audibletrial.com/40thrive. audibletrial.com/40thrive and get your 2 free audiobooks and 2 Audible originals. Okay, so let's join my conversation with Nikki Boyer, recorded in public during lunch hour at an LA area restaurant. It was so much fun. It might actually be my favorite way to record now. Nikki Boyer. Hi.
It's so nice to see you.
It's taking everything in me not to use this time to just catch up on our lives because it's been years.
No.
Years.
How many, like 4? 5?
I think I was working in Culver City and you came to visit. We had lunch. That was the
we
last
did.
time. We're like, oh, we're going to do all these things together.
And then 5 years
Here we
goes
are.
by and we're like, hey, it's been a while. But I love that as soon as I saw you, there was no missed time. It picked up
Nothing.
right. Like, you're
Totally.
just so easy to talk to and so
Thank you.
lovely and
Thank
loving.
you.
And,
I adore you.
and real.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's what, that's especially over 40, like that's all we have left.
Totally.
And so speaking of real, so the reason you're here, I want to talk about a lot of things, but first of all, we are recording here in a restaurant overlooking Los Angeles, and we're going to eat, and we're going to...
My salad's right in front of
your
me.
salad, so pick at it.
Okay.
But the reason that I really reached out this particular time, even though we've talked about having you on the podcast,
Right.
is because you launched this amazing 6-episode series called Dying for Sex with your best friend Molly,
Yes.
who I am in love with.
Right. Best ever, right? She's amazing.
Oh,
I know.
so
She
good.
was so great.
And you are all over the place on TV and other podcasts, and you're talking about it. And I want to talk a little bit about Molly, but in this episode, I would, if it's okay with you,
Yeah.
I'd like to actually focus on your journey
Oh.
through this.
Okay.
This process,
That's cool.
because
Yeah.
you can listen to the podcast and know and understand what Molly goes through. First
Mm-hmm.
of all, episode 6 dropped today when we're recording, and so I was in my car, like ugly crying.
Were you?
It's just so beautiful.
It's pretty profound. It's a moment in time that was just so special and important, and that the message that she gives, I feel like, is it relates to not just people with terminal illnesses, not just people dealing with relationship stuff, not just people dealing with cancer. It relates to every human, and I feel like it's just, I don't know. Every time I listen to that, it brings me back to the center of myself, right? like the center of like who we are and what we want and what do we do with the time we have left and what's important to us and how valuable time is. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. But,
right. So take me back. So it's called Dying for Sex because Molly finds out she has a terminal illness, metastatic breast cancer.
Yes.
And she decides
to leave her husband.
Leave her husband.
And how graphic can we get on? Okay, just making sure. I don't want to drop the F-bomb if it's going to be offensive. But she decides to have as much sex as possible, right? She's like, I just want to feel alive. And for her, sex really was the antithesis to death. And she thought, well, what do I do? And they were actually in couples counseling when she got the call that she was terminal.
Wow.
And she took some time to process information. And then a few months later, moved out and moved very close to where I lived. And we just saw each other very regularly. And she started telling me all these sexual escapades, like kinks and fetishes and dates. I mean, she was dating at 9 a.m., dating at 6 a.m., going out at 2 a.m. for blowjob, like doing all of it that she had never really gotten to do, I think, in her youth.
Right.
And also,
unlike us who were single in our 20s.
Total. Yeah. And I was
we'll just leave it at that.
Like, I just went for it. Like, I was like, let's do it. Right. Like, what are we waiting for?
It's like I knew at 31 I was going to end up with my husband, that I just had to live as much life as possible.
Good for you.
Yeah.
And listen, that's not the road for everybody.
Right. Right. And she was married for like 15 years.
Yeah, she was married. And now just to backtrack and to remind people that she went through breast cancer with him. So was diagnosed, had a double mastectomy, went through chemo, lost her hair, the whole 9 yards with him. So when that dynamic happens and you become the caretaker for your partner, it shifts things sexually. And I don't think their relationship was sexually on point in the beginning for them. But I think as time went on and your partner has cancer, the sex really takes a really big back seat, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, how can it not, right?
Right. So I think their story unfolded the way that it was supposed to, and she decided to leave him. And from that point on, it was just game on. She was like, let's have sex. And she did so many things that caused my mouth to open at our lunches, right? Like,
yeah. She was unafraid. Yeah. And you know what I really loved about the conversations about sex is that she was non-judgmental.
Right? I know.
And that I feel like we're raised so much with so much judgment around sex. And I've had episodes where we've talked about sex as well. And like, there's just so much judgment about what's right and what's wrong. And she went in and she'd meet all these guys with these different fetishes and things. And like, I'm sorry, but she gave a blowjob in her hospital bed.
Right.
And like, it was so matter of fact that I feel like, and you tell me as her best friend, like you go, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was telling myself that story. Maybe that story's bogus.
Yes, I love that. The story we tell ourselves and the judgment that we put on things when we haven't yet experienced it.
Our waiter just came over. I gave him the thumbs up. He's like,
I'm like, what are these two crazy ladies doing? Don't mind us. We're just recording a podcast.
Why are they holding microphones in front of ahi salads and beets?
We didn't even ask for permission.
No, we did not.
We asked for forgiveness.
Yes.
That's what we do.
Yes, that's exactly.
Sorry.
Yes. So yeah, we tell ourselves these stories that like, oh, that's wrong.
That are so limiting.
Yeah.
But we don't know they're limiting because it's just been on sort of autopilot in our brains of,
right.
oh, that's bad, or oh, that's dirty, or oh, that's gross. But what the beautiful thing about Molly was that because of her just open heart and her vulnerability, she didn't look at these fetishes like, oh God, what's his deal? But she looked at it as like, oh, what is he trying to work out? Like, we're all working something out. And sometimes it takes form of sexual acts or sexuality. So she's very open to it.
Yeah.
I mean, she did draw the line on some things, trust me. But she was very open. She may not have been open to doing the acts, but she would definitely sit down and talk to the person and say, where's that come from?
Right.
She was just, there's a reason that all these guys gravitated towards her, because she was just this open soul.
Yeah.
And she wasn't on Tinder and Bumble saying, hey, I'm looking to hook up, let's have sex. But she just put herself out there as like a normal dating situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow. And she really evolves through, I mean, you'd think 6 episodes, like how much, I mean, it was really well produced and you hosted it.
Thank you. Oh, there's the ice maker.
And you hosted it so seamlessly in that you would tell the stories and then it would cut to you and Molly talking. And one of the things that I was really impressed by is that it was never about you. Not that it couldn't be about you. I mean, in the way that, I mean, your friend, you did this podcast because she's dying.
Yeah.
And you were never in the conversations. I'm not saying they didn't happen in real life, but it wasn't like she didn't have to console you. And you see that time and time again when somebody's sick, and then the people around them, the person who's sick ends up consoling them.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That the person who's sick it's not their job to console anybody. And so you were able, I'm sure at times when she would talk about her illness and how it was, you know, things were changing and getting harder for her, you were always a source of light for her. You know what I mean?
So
Like
nice.
you showed up and if it was like funny, you'd laugh. Like it wasn't always. So like, I don't want people to think, oh, I'm going to listen to this podcast and it's going to be sad the whole time. And there's the ice again.
And
and the ice. There's so much hope to it. And there's also just a lesson in friendship in that when you show up as yourself and this open human being and you allow someone to have their human experience, whether it's sex, whether it's dying, whether it's anywhere in between, you gave her such a gift.
Oh, that's so nice.
It
Thank you for saying
really,
that.
really beautiful. And it's killing me not to give away everything. So
I know,
I don't want
I know. Well, in a way, you know, I think we gifted each other because she gave me this gift of this amazing story that honestly, like Jackie, I don't think I knew how amazing of a story it was until honestly, like it was released. Because for me, this was just my norm with Molly. This is how we talk. This is our frame of reference. We were dark. We were twisted. We'd been friends for very many years. We had inside jokes. So for me, this was, you know, the analogy about the frog in the water, right? Do you know that analogy? It's
that it doesn't know it's...
Yeah, it doesn't know it's boiling. Like, it doesn't know that the heat is rising because its body has the capability of adjusting to what's going on. Molly and I always did that. We always adjusted to whatever was going on in our lives and found a way to just be ourselves and be normal within the madness, whether it was her cancer or her re-diagnosis or my fertility issues or families or divorce. We both went through relationships crumbling together. We always were the frog in the water. Usually the frog in the water analogy is to describe to people like, hey, get out of this before you're boiling. But for us, we kind of just simmered in it together.
Splashed around like it was a jacuzzi.
We were like, we were like, all right.
You're like, can I have a margarita? I mean, seriously, when you're listening to this and as dark as it can be and as funny as it can be, like the two of you just were so connected throughout the whole thing from beginning to end.
Thank you.
And
thanks for saying that. And I just really, she made it, you know, listen, it wasn't all easy. There were moments that were very difficult, as you know, when you're dealing with somebody who's ill or sick. And Molly was very vocal and very open about the fact that I was her person.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But I was still trying to function with my person, right? My boyfriend, my stepchildren, my mom, my brother, like my family. And so it was a dance for me to figure out how to be her person, but also be my own person and be my boyfriend's person. And luckily, my boyfriend, Tommy, is so smart and lovely and kind that he was like, this is your time to be with her.
Right.
I showed up every day at the hospital, or every other day. It was my priority because I needed to be there for her. But I got to crumble in front of her, too. It was... we had a really nice way of just being together and wherever we were. Like, she never expected me to be her rock, but I could easily show up that way because it's easy to show up to be someone's rock when they give you permission to not be. Does that make sense?
It makes so much sense. I want you to say it a second time because I think it's so profound.
Okay. What did I just say?
It's easy to show up
and be someone's rock if they give you permission to not be that. Like,
yes.
You can be a person with me.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can be whatever I need to be.
Yes.
And it gives me somehow the strength to be my best self. But there were moments where it was really, really hard.
Wow.
And watching her suffer and watching her in pain and wanting to control it and then feeling responsible. And, you know, it was very messy, but it was also very beautiful.
Yeah.
To all of you out there that have tight relationships with your gals, take a moment and just really appreciate. It's kind of sometimes the most romantic, beautiful story of your life because they've been around for a long time. They've been with you through relationships. So just take a moment to kind of love on the people around you. And it just doesn't have to be your girlfriends. It could be guy friends. It could be whoever friends, right? But whoever's been with you through all phases of life, those people help shape you and they're so special. So if there's someone you want to call or someone you haven't talked to that you're missing or craving, like, go for it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just talking. I'm sorry. I'm babbling. I'm going to take a drink of my, my soda.
Brought to you by soda. I think what's really important is not only what you just said about calling that person, but sometimes we have expectations that these relationships will be perfect or easy,
right.
and the fact that you're eating goat cheese on
goat
beets.
On a beet?
It looks delicious.
Want a bite?
No, thank you. No. I think giving each other that permission to be exactly who they are and where they are at that moment is the biggest gift.
Yeah, that's real support.
Right. So not calling them with expectations, not calling them with like, this is what I need, but like showing up. I think that's what I really got from it, was like the two of you showing up where you were and being who you are and it being okay. Like you didn't have to be some superhuman being that would come in and help her and fix her. You just needed to show up as Nikki, and so she didn't feel so lonely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, you're
like,
right. Yeah.
And you saw her for who she was. You didn't see her as cancer the whole time.
Yeah,
and
I
that's the other
didn't.
thing too, because a lot of times when someone gets sick, they become cancer, and then the rest of them is just like a side story.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. And I'd never really looked at her that way. I guess because she didn't really show up that way.
Yeah.
Like she really showed up in a very full of life. She was just really, she didn't want cancer to define her. She didn't want to be seen through that lens, which is a lot of the reason why she didn't share her diagnosis with any of these men she was having sex with.
Wow.
Like she didn't tell them.
Yeah. And I mean, having sex in celebrity cars making out in celebrity cars and, stuff like that.
Yeah.
You have to listen. If you haven't at this point written it down and said, I'm going to go subscribe to this podcast, or actually pause this and gone and subscribed, like, I don't know what the hell you're waiting for. You should do that now. But I want to talk about some other things because, your journey through this, everybody knows now what Molly would do when she got that diagnosis.
Yeah.
And not everybody. I mean, you've been in a long-term, healthy, monogamous relationship and whatever you're into. I don't know. Monogamous, maybe. But, maybe that wouldn't be your choice. What do you think? I mean, we can't really know until we know. What do you think you'd be doing with your life if you were in her shoes?
If I knew, ooh. Okay, well, that's first of all, a great question. I think everybody should think about this, right? Like, why are we waiting for, say, a terminal diagnosis to go, what am I doing with my life?
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
But for me, and thanks for asking, by the way, for me, I think it would be, like, I have my person. I'm in love. I'm in a really healthy, beautiful relationship. By the way, took me a minute to get there. I had a marriage that lasted for 8.5 or 9 years, went through a divorce, tried to have a baby. That didn't work out. Then I realized, oh my God, he's my baby. Like, this is the person I want to give all my love and attention to. But I think for me, travel, right?
Yeah.
Experiences, human experiences with people. I love live music, but for some reason, never go to concerts. What's that all about? So Tommy and I
parking. I love live music. I hate parking.
I love my pajamas. Can't wear them to a concert.
You're LA.
Maybe
It's
could.
LA.
Yeah,
you probably could.
I did find a pair of pants that I bought them in the juniors department, and I think they're pajama bottoms, but they're plaid and have like a little belt thing on them, so I wear them as real pants. And
oh my God,
myself.
presentable sweats. That's what I call.
Shut up.
I have a whole thing on Fridays. My husband, I have these blue pants. You know what they are? They're those MeUndies. They are not a sponsor.
MeUndies.
Yeah, but they're pants. MeUndies pants, because they did sponsor a past 40 Thrive event. Along with this like really cute blue and white striped shirt. I call them my no, it's mine. TM.
Yeah, right.
Presentable sweats. So I want to do a whole line of 40 Thrive presentable sweats.
You have to. I will buy every color, every print.
No one will know you're in sweatpants.
Right? No, I'm serious.
They have
I
little
think you need to do
pockets.
this.
It's all good. Yeah.
And they're like little tapered at the bottom, so they have a cute.
It's cute.
I'm in.
Okay.
So back to like the
live music.
The live music and loving going to concerts. So it's funny, after we did this podcast, Tommy and I just sat down and said, one live event music every month. What is it? Let's book it. And we just put our money where our mouths are. It's just said, book this. And now I have 15 concerts over the next year. And I know.
Are you traveling to them, or are they all in LA?
Local. And I thought, why what am I waiting for?
Yes.
Like, I'm going to be 45. When am I going to put my big girl panties on and start going to see music? Like, what am I waiting for?
Right.
So travel, music, family. I know that I would like to create some trips, family experiences, and have time like just with my extended family. And for me, it's really about people. There's not a real sex thing for me. Like I don't feel driven to the sex
Because you can
stuff.
have that anytime.
Yeah, I can have it
You
anytime.
have 50% custody, so
Yeah, right.
50% sex.
I know. Like literally,
At least that's what I tell myself with 3 kids, that I have 100% of the time.
you really should get an ex-wife that you
right?
can ship the kids off
Yeah.
to for like just a couple days.
All
here
right,
and there.
I'm on it.
But like you both get to decide on who the ex-wife is. And there's nothing really
it's you.
involved. It's a
This is why
nanny.
it's you. That's why we're here.
Is that what you're?
Yeah.
I'm a great stepmom.
Yeah.
So if you need me to take
Excellent. Done.
So those are the things that feel important to me, and that might change as the years go on, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the mentality is, what is something that you want now? What is on your quote unquote bucket list? Let's achieve that, and then
Yeah.
see what opens up next. Like if I go to all these concerts, then what's the next thing for me? Like
Yeah.
what? Like and why wait? I guess.
And why
that's
do we have to wait until it's a bucket list? Like, how about a live it list?
a live it list? Yes.
Right?
Yeah. What
TM.
does bucket list even mean?
Trademarking that.
Presentable
Well,
spread.
before you kick the bucket.
Oh shit, Jackie! I didn't know that.
You're
Why would it
today
be a
years
bucket
old.
list?
Because like it's
No, I mean,
what
but
you
why-
want to do before you kick the
Kick
bucket.
the bucket. Now, where does kick the bucket come from?
Oh, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Me too.
Yeah.
I'm always fascinated by like idioms and like where
Right.
phrases come from. Kick the bucket.
Where did kick the bucket originate from? I'm asking Siri.
Kick the bucket. I feel like I know what this might be. But your bucket list. Oh, thanks. She's so efficient.
Right? Oh. Okay.
That's interesting. Kick the bucket.
Wait, I asked where did kick the bucket originate from? And she said the answer I found is United Kingdom. She's high.
This is interesting. No, I like this kind of stuff.
Kick the bucket origin.
Origin.
You ready?
Yeah, I couldn't think of the word origin.
To kick the bucket is an English idiom considered a euphemism, informal or slang term meaning to die. Its origin remains unclear, though there have been several theories. A common theory is that the idiom refers to hanging, either as a method of execution or suicide.
So when
However, there's no evidence to support this, which is
Okay.
perfect because on 40 Thrive, there's no evidence to support half the shit I say.
Well, you think about it. Yeah, they're on the bucket. They're
Yeah,
hanging, and then the bucket
yeah.
gets kicked.
You kick
Ooh,
it.
That's
Oh,
harsh.
that's dark.
Whew, all right. Molly would love that. But that's
See?
okay. Well, I'm glad we learned that.
So now we
yeah.
know bucket list.
So we don't have
So
to.
we're going to do a
we
live it list.
don't- a live it list.
Yeah. And
What's
I
on
think
your live it list?
travel is definitely part of
What
that.
what is it about travel that makes you feel alive?
I personally have a hard time living my regular life when I'm traveling, even if it's a business trip for
Yeah.
2 days. I bring enough stuff on the plane to work on my business for 6 months because I'm like, oh, I have that concentrated time on the plane.
Right.
I'll get it all done. And then I don't. I just watch like
Movies and
A Star is Born for the 3rd time or something. Like,
good for you.
so I don't really get it done, but I'm not good at being somewhere else and staying up on my everyday life stuff.
I get that.
I really have to travel to feel free
Right.
from all of the things that I have to show up for.
Huh.
You know, so
Yeah.
that alone, but also just seeing how other people live.
I know.
You know, doing simple things with my family, like even swimming in a pool, and you're not like tied to your phones or
Right.
your tasks or your list or whatever. And so even travel, like sometimes we'll just go an hour to the beach and stay at a hotel, and it's a connection.
Yeah,
It's a connection with the
opportunities
areas
for connection,
around, with each other. And I think that's really what I love.
I love that. Is there anything else on your live it list?
I would like to do a couples retreat with my husband. You
I'm
know?
stealing that. Can I have that one too?
Yeah. We are dad and mom.
Mm-hmm.
We are constantly, even just like a date night, you're not away. Like I would really love to reconnect in that way. Like I feel extremely lucky that I have this guy who is more than open to reconnecting in however that looks.
Mm-hmm.
And I do believe that we would benefit from an excursion or something
Right.
where they actually show you how.
No kidding,
Because
right? Like
you
a
know, I mean,
like
you've
a
got
reminder.
stepkids, and so even you go out to dinner, or even if you go away for the weekend, like it takes forever to remember how to connect in that way.
Yeah.
And so I think a little bit of a guidance in that, like
I
a
love
retreat
that.
would be really nice.
Yeah, just being very mindful of why you're there over and over again.
Yeah,
I
and some
know.
exercises to reconnect and
Oh,
things like
sounds
that.
good. Can I come?
Could you
imagine?
both can. That's a different kind of retreat. But spending more time with the people that fuel my soul.
Yeah.
and less time with those who suck the life out of it.
Right? Isn't it great to get in your 40s and realize who does that and who doesn't?
Yes. And you don't have to have a terminal illness.
No.
That's what I love about being in our 40s and 50s and 60s is that we start to give fewer fucks. And so you're like, oh, that cousin's wife's, sister who's really annoying at that party, like, I don't have to go to that party.
Right.
Or I could say, excuse me. Or,
Yeah.
I don't feel it necessary to please everyone else now.
Yeah,
Do you get that?
100%. And Molly gets it too. And I think when Molly and I first met, we were in our 20s, which is total people-pleasing mode, right?
Yes.
And desire me and love me and let me conform to what you want. And so it was really interesting to watch the two of us go through relationships and marriages and get out of those roughly around the same times. And her journey was way different than mine, but they were still sort of parallel, like really getting clear about your wants, your needs, your desires, being able to be a mess when you want to be a mess, and being able to pull it together when you need to, and all of it being part of your journey, not just the highs. Because I do believe that when you carve out a certain amount of space in your heart for joy and excitement and love, you carve out the equal amount in your heart for sadness and grief and guilt. Like you can't have one without the other. And the deeper you carve one, the deeper the other gets carved. So sometimes when you're real down and out and you're feeling horrible, I always look at it like, how deeply is this getting carved into me? And then how deeply is the capacity for love and joy being carved into me at that same time?
Wow, I love that.
That's my life coachy stuff coming out. But I do that when I'm in that depths of like feeling really dark and low. And when I was going through my fertility stuff and I just could not get to the point where I never had a baby. I never got that opportunity. And it was dark coming to terms with the fact that wasn't a possibility for me in the way that I wanted. It got real dark, but I just remember thinking, gosh, I am carving such space out for joy and love at a different time. May not be right now, but like, that's how I kind of tried to look at it to save my sanity, to be honest.
Right. I mean, it's a beautiful way to see it because ultimately on the other side, we see that we go through certain things to, like you sitting here right now would not be that same human if you haven't been through what you've been through. Yeah. And same for me. It's hard in that moment. And it's even hard later. It's not like, oh, I'm not a everything happens for a reason type of person. But I feel that you can find purpose in what has happened.
That's good. Ooh. I think you should repeat that one.
TM. We're TMing the hell out of this episode. So I want to talk about something that happened to Molly that I think every single human being on earth needs to hear. So if you do nothing, actually, just listen to all 6 episodes. But self-love and self-acceptance exactly as you are in this exact moment. I think it so profoundly affected me. We're constantly, you and I live in Los Angeles, and we are constantly bombarded with unattainable standards. And especially on camera for you, on TV for so long, even though you're not in a bikini, but it's like you have to look this certain way. And you have to, so we judge ourselves based on how hireable we are.
No, that's true.
And it's not our actual internal who we are. And so to hear from somebody so far in the depths of dying, really spell it out. Like that shit doesn't matter.
I know. It was really powerful to watch her body kind of fall apart, and she couldn't move her legs, couldn't use the restroom, her feet. I remember I would rub her feet all the time, and they didn't even look like hers. Like her body was just this quote unquote undesirable like shell. And I said to her, I remember saying, do you feel sexual? Do you crave it? Do you miss it? And there was just none of that for her, because she was going so deeply within to really love herself and have a relationship that she had never really gotten to have with herself, that all that outside stuff really did just fall away for her. And it's a struggle, like when we're not faced with death and we're dealing with life, it's a day-to-day struggle and figuring that out. But I think when you know your end is near, all of that sort of falls away. So I think we should all live as if we are, this might sound backwards, but we should all live as if we're we're dying. Like,
Yeah.
well, we are all dying.
Because we are.
Right?
Yeah.
And I know that's morbid, but at the same time, doing that deep work on ourselves and loving ourselves unconditionally and figuring out that we're okay even though we're flawed or we're jacked up here and there. There's no one that comes out unscathed. No one comes out of this life perfect. So be okay with all that stuff.
Right.
Like, really learn to love yourself and learn to find beauty in your flaws and look at yourself as not just a physical being. Like, you are a soul. There's a bright light in you, and let it shine. And I don't know, there's a quote about it where, like, I love the cracks because that's where the light gets in, or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's that Japanese
art.
Yeah.
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 It's like, that's where the light gets in, and love your cracks.
Right. Yeah. And I think don't wait until you know that it's nearing the end to accept yourself. You know, but we also do it as women. We're like, accept yourself, love yourself. And then we meet someone who does, and we judge her. Like, why does she exactly? You know, she could lose weight. Why is she so secure?
Right. Because we're afraid and we're judgy.
Right.
I know.
And so not only accept yourself, but accept others.
Yeah.
And that we're all just trying our best.
Right.
And, you know, and it's a shared human experience. So let's talk about your experience. So, girl, when you look up in the dictionary, like, shining light of brightness, I mean, I remember the day I met you, and you just have such just a light. That's all I can say. In
so
everything you do, whether you're like on Wendy Williams talking about celebrity crap, or or on the podcast with Ross, who, by the way, like, my audience remembers him as an intern.
Isn't that funny?
Jay Leno.
Yeah, right. Ross
People now
Matthews.
are like, Ross Matthews, he was born famous. And I'm like, no, he was the intern guy. But, you know, you're doing all of these things, and you're very real and you're very authentic, but you're also this bright light. And so
thank you.
I love that. You're very welcome. I love, though, that you have taken, so you were hustling.
Yeah.
Tell me about what happened.
Hardcore hustling.
In the TV. So I remember I was on your show, the Yahoo show that you did.
Daytime and No Time. Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
A million years ago. I'm going to have to find that picture. What happened? Like, where, because you don't do as much.
Honestly, the work started to dry up, right? Because I'm in my 40s. I'm an on-camera personality.
You're a relic.
I am dusty. No, the landscape of the business started to change. And as you know, the social media jumped up and people wanted these sort of young, bright, shiny things, and good for them. There's no animosity or like, ugh. But it just, the landscape of the work changed. Hosting work changed. Acting work started to change. It wasn't like back in the day where you'd do a co-star and then work your way up to a guest star, and then you'd be a reoccurring, or you'd work it didn't work that way anymore. It was kind of like the Wild Wild West. It was really interesting to just see someone go from complete anonymity to having 150,000 followers, and all of a sudden they're the spokesperson for oil of Olay, and you're like, what? You're 12. You don't need oil of Olay. I need the oil of Olay. A lot of celebrities, if you notice, a lot of celebrities now doing voiceovers and commercials. And so the work started to just dry up a little bit. I went to an audition one day. It was for a Disney show. And I left the audition, and my boyfriend called me and he said, what was the best part about your audition? And I said, I didn't like parking. I didn't like walking. I didn't really like the audition part. I didn't like that I didn't get the job. But my favorite part was that the assistant at the casting office, her brother had just gotten sick. So she and I sat for 15 minutes and talked about how hard it was for her, and we just connected as people. That was my favorite part of the audition, which had nothing to do with the audition.
Yeah.
And I was like, I love connecting. And I was getting in my own way as an actress that I wasn't able to do that in my work because I was too busy judging myself and worried about competing with the other girls in the waiting room. And I thought, well, how do I thread that needle and create a career where I can just connect and connect and connect? Because it's not working this way.
Yeah.
And so then I got my certification in life coaching. And now I'm doing life coaching on the side, which to me is so rewarding and so exciting. It's still hard. And I'm not perfect at it. I'm figuring out my way, but I love the journey. And I don't know if I wouldn't have threaded the needle of doing what I was doing in the acting world, I wouldn't have come to that conclusion about the life coaching. So it's all related and it's all intertwined. But I took a break and I was like, I can't do this anymore. Plus, I was going through all that fertility stuff. Yeah. And when you're jacked up on all those hormones, and I was pregnant off and on for almost 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
So I was exhausted and I was angry and I was really mean.
Yeah.
I was so mean. They're
like, you're playing an angel. You're like, F off.
Exactly. I wish I could have gotten a role as like a crazy person because I would have killed it. So I was going through that at the same time, and it was just banging my head against the wall. And I thought, well, why don't I just stop doing it? Like, why am I continuing to do something? It doesn't have to be right now. Why don't I give it a little breathing room and see where it leads? So
that right there, I'm so happy that you're talking about that, because there are so many women I talk to who started off in a certain industry with goals in a certain industry, and they're so afraid to pivot because it's failure to them. And you would never expect somebody who had a goal 20 years ago to stick with that same goal. In fact, that's kind of unhealthy.
Right? So why do we not give ourselves that same permission? I know. It's an interesting industry, isn't it?
It's an evolution for you. And who knows, this life coaching thing, you could end up back on TV doing what you're doing.
Right, I know, yeah.
As an experienced life coach. Because
Yeah.
then nobody wants you to be 22. They actually want you to have gone through some things.
Right.
And to have a few years under your belt.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know,
You know?
right? Yeah,
and so I feel like that's what's going to happen next, is that you're going to be like on some sort of,
that would be amazing.
you know, TV show or
Right.
your own show where you are helping people through things. And you said something that really stood out to me, like, you're not perfect at it. I don't think you're supposed to be perfect at it.
Right. Yeah. Like, we're
Like,
just
what is a perfect life coach?
Gross. Right? No.
I don't know what that looks like,
Yeah.
but I mean, and I'm not a life coach, so please like educate me in this field, but you really are a mirror,
Totally.
and you reflect back to that person and help them come up with the solutions to their
Yeah.
own lives.
Yeah,
Is
because
that-
the answers are really deep within you. Like, if you sit really still, if you're stuck on a decision, right? Oh, do I do this? Do I do this? The thoughts that we tell ourselves in our head, in the story, like you had mentioned earlier, the stories we tell ourselves, if we quiet some of that down and just really not quiet your thoughts, because it's really hard to quiet your
Yeah,
thoughts. But if
yeah.
you can, like Oprah says, sit into the seat of yourself and just observe the thoughts that are happening and really pay attention to where those thoughts sit in your body, you know the answer. You may not know it right now, but if you sit with it long enough and put
Right.
as much energy into the sitting with it as you do stressing about it,
Right.
you're going to get way more clarity. So
Right.
I like to coach people through being okay with the not knowing, but just really sitting into the seat of yourself and sitting and observing your thoughts. That's the most clarity that you can get. And really,
Yeah.
that idea of meditation that everybody's, says, we're like,
Right.
quiet the mind. I'm like, have you met my mind? There ain't no quiet
Right.
in this mind.
Right.
But really observing the thoughts that are in your mind, I feel like that's true meditation, is really separating yourself and becoming the observer of the thoughts
Okay.
you're having.
Right.
And going, oh, that's interesting. Huh. Okay. Michael Singer is a guy who wrote a book called The Untethered Soul.
Yes.
Obsessed with it.
Yeah.
And that's where I pull some of this from, which is just observe the thoughts, see where they sit in your body, pay attention to them, acknowledge them, but they aren't necessarily the truth, because, oh my God, I'm getting all life coaching now.
No,
I do
I love
believe
it.
that the thoughts that you have, like, this is my mantra: thoughts become actions,
Mm-hmm.
actions become habits, and then habits become ways of life.
Mm.
So if you're not happy with your way of life, let's go back to the thoughts that you're having.
Right.
And sometimes you just can't change them, change your thoughts. Sometimes you can.
Right. He talks about the dialogue that you have in your head.
Yes.
And that both voices are yours, but we only pay attention to the one
Yes.
that's negative.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like, the loud kid in the class gets all the attention.
Yeah.
While the kids that are doing really well are like, we're doing a good job here.
Right.
Like, why do we pay attention to that, to the loud kid?
Yeah, I listened to a couple of chapters on Audible, and
Oh,
I'm going to
wow.
link to it in the show notes so people can
Okay.
get it. And I'm going to go back and listen to it right
And
away.
I reread it and re-listen to it on a regular basis. It really
Yeah.
helps me.
I found it fascinating because, and I think there was a study recently that talks about some people don't have the dialogue in their heads, and they can't be my friends. I don't know what.
Oh,
I don't
wanna-
understand.
I want.
I don't.
Do you ever see people that just coast by? I'm like, I want a little bit of that. I want a little bit of, like, the obliviousness. Obliviousness, is that a word?
Yeah, I just didn't know. I don't know.
Sometimes I
Yeah.
wish I wasn't so sensitive, and not in a bad way. Like,
Yeah.
you're sensitive, but like,
So
I
extra.
absorb everything and
Yeah.
I feel so much. And sometimes I wish I could turn a little bit of that off. And sometimes I think
but you wouldn't be
we're
you.
wired how we're wired, right?
Well, and I actually said to my youngest the other day, he was talking about an experience he's been through, and
Yeah.
he's adopted internationally, and he had a rough start to life, and we talk about it a lot, and I said to him, you will see people in your life who didn't necessarily have as much adversity, and this is a generalization, but sometimes you won't be able to connect with them because they don't feel as deeply and
Yes.
know as much as you do. And so be patient with them.
That's
first
really
of all.
good advice.
But secondly, all of this extra experience is working for you. And it's painful. And it's definitely something to work through and to process. And we have therapists in our family and all that good stuff. But I think it's really important to understand that you're special in a way that you're able to, like you were talking about, carve out that negative and that pain so you can feel that extra joy.
Yeah.
Because those people who are coasting are also not feeling the joy the way you feel it.
That's true. I also believe there are new souls. I
Yes.
do believe in the old soul,
Yeah.
new soul thing.
Yeah.
That's a little airy-fairy, but I do believe that.
I love little woo-woo.
What's a little woo-woo?
Just woo-woo, like that.
Oh, woo-woo.
Airy fairy.
I was like,
you're like, who's little woo-woo?
I'm like,
That's my rap
little
name. Okay, that's totally my new rap name. Little woo-woo.
You said that's a little woo-woo. And I was like, immediately, I was like, who is that? I want to meet this person. And you're like, it's me. No, I know what you mean, like woo-woo.
Yeah. Like woo-woo.
We have so many things we have to work on now.
I know.
The pants.
Yes.
What is it called again? The
presentable sweats.
Presentable sweats.
Yep.
Lil Woo Woo is so. I mean, we got to write a song for Lil Woo Woo.
Oh my God! You used to write songs. You used
The
to parody
parodies.
songs.
Yes.
I'm gonna link to some of those.
Will you? They're so inappropriate. So prepare yourself. The
They're
irony,
so
Jackie,
good.
is they're all about infertility way before it happened to
Oh
me.
my gosh.
Like, how weird is that?
Wow.
Like my Carly Rae Jepsen one, Make a Baby, was
Yeah,
about like,
that's
hey,
right.
who wants to like inseminate me because
That's
I'm getting
right.
older.
That's
And then
right.
the other one was called The Bad Blood Test that I directed with the Taylor Swift lookalike. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
like, I don't know, I had sex with 3 guys last week. Don't know which one's the dad. Like, they're all about
They're
pregnancy.
all about pregnancy. Oh my
So
gosh.
weird.
Wow. You can put that in your memoir.
Exactly.
Wow. So, how do people work with you? I mean, are you open to people working
Oh,
with you?
absolutely. Oh, thank you for that. Yes, I have a little website. It's just
A little website.
A little woo-woo
It's called
website.
Little woo-woo.
Oh my God, I wish I would have called my
I'm
business Lil Woo-Woo.
I'm making t-shirts with logos. So before I can't even put this episode out until I have the site and all of it done.
My business is called Talk It Out because I do believe that when we hold on to the words and we don't say it out loud, because Brene Brown always says that sharing your shame is the best way to heal it and to connect with people.
Yeah.
So Talk It Out, lifecoach.com is my website. And then if you want to email me, it's talkitoutlifecoach@gmail.com. But it's a team. We're just in this together. Like we work through this stuff together. And what I really love doing is creating accountability and goals. And a goal can be anything from learning how to use your wheelchair properly to wanting to create a meal plan for yourself so that you are healthier, or stretching yourself to make plans with friends, or figuring out how to get through your divorce. Like everybody's struggles. I mean, they go all over the place. Like
Something's
they're
happening
everywhere.
in the kitchen behind you. I apologize. It sounded like a band, like a drum set just showed up in the kitchen.
They might have. Yeah. It's Lil Woo Woo's backup band.
So stretching yourself to reach those goals, however they are. And I
just
love
having
that.
accountability. Like knowing that next week, like what if you said to me, I really want to try drinking less soda. That would be one that I would try to do.
Yeah.
And I'd say, great, what does that look like, right?
Yep.
And I'd say, how do we set this up? What do we replace it with? What does soda bring to you? Like, for me, it's about childhood, and it's very connected to, like, how I feel. And for me, it's like, I deserve this.
Yes.
And instead, I'm
Yes.
giving myself crap in a glass.
Right.
But what does deserve mean to me, right? And what
Right.
does honoring myself really mean? And figuring out when it's okay to give that to yourself and when it's not serving you, and all
Right.
that conversation, even though we're only talking about soda,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But for you, I'd say, okay, let's just check in. Like at the end of every day, I want to know where you are, and just that acknowledgement of accountability and the acknowledgement of somebody's going to be checking in on me. I'm going to be reaching out to Nikki at the end of the day. It just sort of shifts your thinking and
Yes.
rewires your thinking into
Yes.
just accountability for little things.
I'm a huge believer in accountability. And
Yeah.
however, I've said it on the podcast before, like finding a mentor of some sort, somebody, your neighbor, your sister, your church member, your life coach,
Yeah.
your whatever it is, accountability and community are everything.
Everything. I
So
totally
love
agree
that
with
you're
that.
doing it. I mean, you are so naturally gifted. Even just watching you walk into this restaurant, the way you connected with the people who greeted us at the door and the waiter who came to the table. It wasn't in a like flippant, like, how are you today? Like you genuinely stopped and asked him how he was doing.
Oh,
And I know that
yeah, I
sounds like
care,
so,
right?
like,
so nice.
duh, who doesn't do, like, but people do not do that. you have a way of helping people feel seen.
Oh my God, Jackie, you're going to make me cry. I love that compliment because there's nothing.
Because you know it's true.
Well, I know what it's like to feel seen, and I know how that feels. So I would love nothing more than to just walk around the earth and help people feel seen.
Yeah. Well, you're doing it.
And you're doing it to me right now, and you're making me want to cry. Thank you.
You're doing it in your work, and you're doing it in your life. And like I was sitting here setting up all my equipment on a table in a restaurant, and you were, genuinely engaging. And I just think you are a gift. And thank you for sharing this with me.
Thank you.
And he's
Did you give the thumbs up to the waiter? He's so sweet.
He's the best.
I know.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm honored. I adore you, and I will forever be grateful for our little friendship that gets woven every 5 years. We need to see. I'm going to hold us accountable. We're going to see each other.
Okay.
Deal?
Okay.
This is accountability. So then the listeners are going to be like, hey, have you guys seen each other? And we're going to be like, oh my God, no, but we have to book it. So before we leave here today, we are going to put something on the calendar.
Okay.
So that we make sure we have it. And that way, instead of just going, we should really hang out soon.
Totally.
That we actually have something in the calendar.
And I will hunt you down like I did to get you to do this podcast.
And
you're like, I might be on Access Hollywood. I'm like, girl, my stuff travels. I could do this in a car.
I had no idea.
Oh yeah, I'm serious.
Lil Woo Woo goes everywhere, girl. Lil Woo Woo is in your house. Lil Woo Woo is in the garage. Lil Woo Woo is at the Odyssey restaurant. But
Odyssey restaurant. Thank you to the Odyssey restaurant.
Yes, thanks. You didn't even know you were hosting this today.
It's up above. I mean, it's a beautiful view. So anyway.
Thank you for anybody that listens to Dying for Sex, because I do feel like when you take an opportunity to listen to it, it's, about 6 hours, because it's about 40 something minutes
not
each
even
episode.
6
Not
hours.
even 6
Yep.
hours. But the journey that you get to go on, I think, will help carve out some space in you for feeling, right?
100%.
So give it a shot.
I think you'll be entertained. It will make you think. And if it even for a second makes you choose something that enhances your life and enhances your connections, then you're doing incredible work.
So listen, and thanks for enhancing my life and my connection with you and with everyone listening by just inviting me here today, because this stuff is important. And
I love you, girl.
I love you too. Thank you so much. Let's eat.
Thank you so much for listening. Let me ask you 2 quick questions. Have you subscribed? It's easy to do and helps you get alerts when a new episode is up in your favorite podcast app. And have you shared it with a friend? That's the simplest way to help you grow the show and help more and more women over 40 thrive. I really appreciate you pressing play today. I know you have a lot going on, and it's not lost on me. Until next time, take care and keep thriving.